Incredible discovery, millionaire finds black cleaner studying in dark, transforming lives in 30. Thomas Bennett walked through the echoing halls of his corporate fortress, each step a reminder of his achievements and unshakable isolation. The glass walls around him gleamed under the fluorescent lights, reflecting a man who had it all: money, success, respect. Yet, as he neared the break room, a familiar emptiness sat heavy in his chest. He pushed the door open. What he found inside took his breath away. Malik Carter, a young janitor, sat hunched over in the dim light, surrounded by a sea of textbooks, sharpened notes, and crumpled papers. His eyes were intense, focused, deeply embedded in his studies as he scribbled furiously. It was a stark contrast to the lifeless buzzing of the fluorescent lights. Thomas had never seen anyone so resolute, so determined to rise above their circumstances. Malik looked up, surprised. Hey. It's late, huh? He said, a hint of weariness in his voice. There was something in his demeanor that sparked something long dormant in Thomas, a feeling of connection to effort, to a dream. I always work late, Thomas replied, surprised by the softness creeping into his tone. What were you studying? Law, Malik said, pride and hope lighting up his expression. I want to be a civil rights attorney. Change the world, you know. Help people like my family. Thomas's heart clenched. He remembered his own dreams buried beneath layers of expectation. They talked late into the night about race, ambition, and the scars of prejudice etched into their lives. Malik's stories of walking barriers, of striving against dismissals, ignited a fire in Thomas. He felt invigorated, as if Malik had breathed new life into his weary soul. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days melted into weeks, their conversations became ritualistic, a weekly fire to warm their spirits. Malik prepared for his scholarship interview, burning the midnight oil, while Thomas quietly sidelined fundraising plans to support Malik's journey. Yet, with every passing day, the looming specter of prejudice seemed to draw nearer, growing like a storm cloud over their bond. One afternoon, a confrontation rattled their world. Thomas witnessed a colleague belittling Malik, tossing out slurs that dripped like acid into the already strained atmosphere. Malik's shoulders slumped, the light in his eyes flickering. Thomas felt rage rise in his chest, a tight clench that blurred his vision. Would he stand up? The choice stretched out before him like a chasm. What if he said nothing? Malik, feeling smaller than ever, faced a choice of his own. Should he fight back or retreat into despair? The room throbbed with tension, emotions writhing wildly, as Thomas stood paralyzed. Their lives, once distant, now irrevocably intertwined in a dance of courage and vulnerability, waiting for a spark of action. What came next? Would Thomas break free from his own walls, or would Malik's dreams crumble under the weight of prejudice? The answers lay in their hands, and hope hung in the balance, whispering of transformation. Thomas felt as if time slowed in that crowded break room. The acrid words from his colleague echoed painfully in his mind. Everything within him screamed to intervene to shield Malik from a world that sometimes felt suffocating and unkind. Yet, as he took a step forward, doubt gripped him. What if his intervention only made things worse? What if the cost of standing up was too high? Malik's breath hitched, and for a fleeting moment, their eyes locked. Thomas saw the flicker of hope in Malik's gaze, a silent plea for solidarity, for someone to fight alongside him in the face of years of insidious prejudice. That moment ignited something deeply buried inside Thomas. All at once, the barriers he had built felt flimsy and paper-thin, smothered under a wave of determination. Hey! That's enough, Thomas's voice cut through the tension like a whip. He felt a surge of courage, a warmth spreading through him. He nodded toward Malik. He is studying to be a lawyer. A good one. The colleague froze, surprise flashing across his face. The air felt electric, charged, as every eye in the break room turned to them. Malik's expression shifted. Was it relief? Gratitude? It was hard to tell, but just knowing Thomas stood beside him bolstered his spirit. He straightened up, a new resolve shining in his eyes. He was no longer just a janitor in this corporate fortress, he was a student, a warrior for change, a voice that mattered. Right, a lawyer, the colleague stammered, as the atmosphere shifted from hostility to confusion and back to silence. You think that matters here? Yes, Thomas replied firmly, his voice unwavering. It does. And you should be ashamed of yourself. The silence stretched, palpable and heavy, before the colleague let out a humorless laugh and walked away, muttering under his breath. The weight of the moment hung in the air, and both men paused to breathe deeply, letting tension linger for just a moment longer before it shattered like glass. When the breakroom door clicked shut behind him, Malik turned to Thomas, his eyes glistening. I didn't expect that, he said, emotion thick in his voice. It was the least I could do, Thomas said, feeling something in his chest expand like a balloon. The truth was, it was more than just standing up for Malik, it was a step towards reclaiming his own lost voice. We all deserve to be treated with respect. With the conversation after that, they launched deep into their shared aspirations. They discussed cases that changed lives, struggled against injustice, and dreamt of the legal battles they might one day engage in together. As they spoke, the fluorescent lights flickered, casting hopeful shadows across the room. Malik grew animated, and Thomas marveled at how transformative this experience had become for both of them. In the span of a few hours, something had shifted. Courage swelled within him, and he felt like a new man who had, at last, shed the weight of silence. Thank you for believing in me, Malik said softly. It's easy to believe in someone like you, Thomas mused, the words just slipping out. But in that moment, he realized it was more than belief, it was partnership and genuine connection. It was a partnership forged in ambition and anchored in hope, but as they shared their dreams, the shadows of their realities lingered around them, and Thomas could sense the struggle ahead. Malik had the fire to rise, but the path was layered with challenges yet unseen. Tentatively, he posed a question. What happens if you don't get that scholarship? Malik's smile faltered just slightly, but the determination didn't fade. Then I'll find another way. I always do. A silence settled, heavy with unspoken fears. They both understood the stakes, and the weight of ambitions often threatened to crush them. So much was still on the line. Then let us make sure you get it, Thomas replied, resolve spilling over. A pact emerged, unspoken but deeply felt. Little did they know, this was just the beginning. More storms were brewing. A new adversary would soon confront their fledgling bond, a test that could shatter everything. They had started to build. As they left the break room, a thought clung to Thomas, a strange exhilaration thrumming beneath the surface. Would they be able to weather this storm? Would their friendship rise unscathed, or would it be swept away? They stepped out to face an uncertain future, with hearts pumping and hope flickering bright. Could this be their moment of reckoning, or the start of deeper struggles to come? As they walked side by side out of the break room, the sounds of clicking keyboards and murmured conversations faded into a hushed backdrop. Each step felt as heavy as a weighty decision, each moment thick with unsaid words and probing emotions. Malik looked up at Thomas, his eyes sparkling with renewed energy. You know, I could use someone like you in my corner. Thomas chuckled lightly, surprised by the joy flooding through him. And I could use a lawyer. Hope you don't expect me to take the bar exam anytime soon. Hey, who knows? Malik grinned. Maybe we could start a 2-for-1 deal. Their laughter floated around them, momentarily dissolving the tension of their earlier confrontation. It was a spark that lit the way as they navigated through the office halls, a newfound camaraderie warming the air between them. But just as they reached the elevator, the mood shifted. An ominous figure appeared in their line of sight, a senior manager, Alan, who had his eyes set on Malik. As the man approached, Thomas felt the hairs on his neck prickle with unease. Alan's reputation for being cutthroat was well known, a biting serpent hidden beneath the polished veneer of corporate success. "Hey, Malik. Didn't he expect to see you here?" Alan's tone was condescending, lacing casualness with a threat. "Thought you were just cleaning up after us." Malik shrank briefly, but this time Thomas stepped forward. "Malik's working for his future, Alan. You should be proud to have someone like him in this company." Surprise and anger played across Alan's face, then morphed into a sly smile. "Ah, the janitor wants to be a lawyer. That's adorable." He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a mock whisper. "Tell me, have you sent in your application? Or are you hoping to groom yourself in between shifts?" Fury rose in Thomas like a raging fire, but he focused on Malik, who stood firm instead of crumbling. "I have my plans," Malik declared, voice steady despite the pressure surrounding them. "I will be more than what you see." The moment hung heavy, an invisible tension crackling in the air. Thomas felt his heart racing. This was it, the challenge they had anticipated. Would Malik shrink back into the shadows or take a stand? "Didn't you hear?" Alan scoffed, straightening up. "The world doesn't need more lawyers. It needs people like me, who can really get things done." He turned to Thomas, smirking. "And you? You should reconsider your life choices. Associating with him might bring you down." Malik's hands clenched at his sides, determination hardening his features. "You might be right about one thing, Alan. I don't fit into your box. But that doesn't mean I don't belong." The elevator doors slid open, offering a momentary escape. Glaring at Alan one last time, Malik stepped into the tiny space with Thomas. Neither of them spoke as the doors closed, the tension inside that little capsule palpable. "Can you believe that guy?" Thomas finally exploded, frustration pouring out. "He thinks he can just—" Malik held up a hand, eyes aflame. "He doesn't get it. He can't see beyond his own narrow view of success." "Yeah, but what if he's right? What if the world's too stacked against you?" Thomas questioned, his heart sinking as he expressed the concern that had burrowed deep within him. Malik's gaze solidified, unwavering. "If it is, then I'll break through. I have to. I've come too far to turn back now." The elevator dinged, and the doors opened to the lobby drenched in bright light. They stepped out into the warmth, but it felt like an electric storm brewing. "Just know," Malik said quietly, "you're not just a bystander in this. You're part of this fight with me." His words permeated the air, sowing a deep sense of commitment between them. Thomas could feel the weight of those words ripple through him, burning against the doubts that had followed him for too long. As they passed through the bustling office, laughter and chatter filled their ears. But the excitement was undercut by an undeniable tension. They were standing at the threshold of something significant and potentially perilous. The day would soon reveal its threats. And Thomas wondered, would their partnership hold together against the trials to come, or would they be torn apart by unseen forces? His heart raced as he considered the path ahead. What awaited them around the corner, and could their bond withstand the storm brewing just out of sight? Stepping out into the bustling lobby, the sunlight felt both liberating and suffocating. Thomas squinted against the bright glare, the weight of Alan's sneering words lingering in the corners of his mind. It felt surreal to witness such raw ambition in Malik, yet the sting of skepticism nagged at Thomas. "Do you think he meant it?" Thomas asked quietly, casting a sideways glance at Malik. "About you not belonging? We can't let people like him dictate our worth." Malik shrugged, his expression hardening. "I know my worth. I can't let a guy like that push me down." Just then, the chatter of the office faded into a background hum as they approached a group of colleagues. A few of them laughed, exchanging gossip and banter, but Thomas felt the bubble of confidence around him burst. How could these people genuinely care about their jobs when he felt the heaviness of what they faced? "Hey, Malik. Ready for some basketball later?" One of the younger employees called out, abuzz with carefree energy. Sure, Malik replied, a quick smile breaking through. Thomas watched as Malik seamlessly slipped back into the camaraderie of the office, disconnecting from the weight they both carried. It was like flipping a switch, the pure joy of connection flooding Malik's features, if only for a moment. He admired how effortlessly Malik transitioned between roles: the janitor, the student, the friend. But in Thomas's chest, uncertainty lurked. "That one be enough, you know?" he blurted out, breaking the spell. Malik turned, brow furrowing. "What do you mean? Basketball?" "I mean, it's fun, but playing a game isn't going to change anything." Malik let out a breath, his gaze drifting for just a heartbeat. "It's balance, Thomas. I need that. We need to support each other through the tough stuff, but we can't forget to live in between." Before Thomas could respond, their manager, Karen, approached. Her friendly demeanor shifted as she noticed Malik. "Oh, there you are. I was looking for you. I have a project you might be interested in." Malik straightened, intrigued. "Really? What's up?" Karen glanced around, eyes narrowing half conspiratorially. "It's a report that's due next week. It'll have people talking about their roles during team meetings. There's a chance to impress some higher-ups. I think you'd do great with this." Malik's eyes widened with a mix of hope and apprehension. "Sounds like a lot of work. Come on. This is your chance to shine." "We can work through it together," Karen encouraged, her enthusiasm infectious. As she spoke, Thomas felt a flicker of despair. Here was Malik again, caught between the drive for better and the remnants of everyone's narrow perceptions. What if Malik pushed through and was met with more condescension? "I think I'll take it," Malik said, grinning. "Great choice. Let us meet later to discuss the details." With that, Karen whisked away, leaving Malik glowing with ambition. "Are you sure about this?" Thomas asked, a sloppy concern slipping through. "What if it turns out just like between you and Alan?" Malik shrugged again, this time a hint of defiance in his posture. "Maybe, but I can't worry about that. The world isn't going to hand me anything. I've got to go after it." Thomas nodded, deeply conflicted. There was inspiration in Malik's response, but the fear that crept in wouldn't he let go. They had a long way to go, and he couldn't help but wonder if this battle would take more than they anticipated. As they continued toward the front door, a thought gnawed at Thomas: what if Malik's journey meant risking more than he understood? What if he took on this challenge and faced something he couldn't overcome alone? The world felt expandingly vast yet perilously fragile as both men stepped outside into the light. And as they stood at that precarious edge, the promise of a new chapter loomed ahead, begging the question: were they ready to face whatever came next together, or would the struggle tear at their bonds in the end? Malik dribbled the basketball on the asphalt court, the sound echoing in the evening air like a heartbeat. A warm breeze rustled the trees nearby, and the golden hues of sunset painted the sky. With every bounce, he shook off the pressure, releasing the tension that had danced in his chest all day. The laughter of colleagues faded into the background, and for a moment, he was just a guy playing a game with friends, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that loomed over him. "All right, let's see what you got, Malik." Someone shouted from the sideline, a challenge igniting a familiar fire in him. He squared up, focused, and took his best shot. The ball hit the rim with a loud thunk, teasing fate before rolling away. "You'll get it next time," cheered Karen, who had swung by to watch. Her encouragement struck a chord, filling him with warmth. Yeah, he replied, a smirk creeping onto his face. But deep down, as he missed another shot, whispers of doubt crowded his mind again. What if this project really was a trap? What if Alan was right? What if it was too much? Meanwhile, Thomas leaned against the sidelines, arms crossed over his chest, watching Malik with a mix of pride and concern. Malik's resilience inspired him, but the weight of their earlier conversation still pressed heavily on his heart. "Why do you look like you're not having any fun?" Malik yelled over to him during a break. The laughter of their teammates blended with Malik's genuine concern, tugging at Thomas's heartstrings. "I'm just thinking," Thomas admitted, shrugging it off as he approached the court. "About the project, about Alan, just everything." Malik's brow furrowed, his countenance transitioning from playful to serious within an instant. "You can't let his words get to you. Don't let that guy drown your spirit. You can't quit before you even take the shot, man." Thomas knew he needed to let go of the doubt. "I get that. I just worry about what people think. Alan, he plays these games with minds. What if he finds a way to undermine you again?" Malik rolled the basketball in his hands, his eyes narrowing with determination. "I'm not Alan's victim, and neither are you. We're here for more than just people's opinions. We gotta act brave, even when it's hard." As the game resumed, Thomas felt a spark of courage. Malik moved fluidly, dodging opponents, his confidence illuminating the court. The camaraderie surrounding them felt like a cocoon, giving Thomas the comfort to let go of the weight pressing on him, but in that moment of joy, he caught a glimpse of Alan lurking near the edge of the court, a shadow creeping around the light. Their eyes met, and Alan's gaze held a sinister promise, a silent reminder of the challenge that loomed ahead. "Hey!" Malik called, bringing Thomas back to the game. "Forget about him. Focus on what's in front of us." But Thomas couldn't shake off the chill that ran down his spine. Deep down, he sensed that this showdown with Alan was inevitable. Would they rise and shine, or would Alan's sneering negativity dim their light? After the game wrapped, the cheers faded, and the cool night air set in. Malik paused as they gathered their things. "This is just the beginning, Thomas. Let's discuss the project over dinner. You'll see, it's going to work." Thomas felt torn between fear and hope. Was Malik too optimistic? Or was there truly a chance? Everything hinged upon this moment, the turning point in the midst of their struggle. "All right, let us do it," Thomas said finally, gripping Malik's shoulder. But as they turned to head home, Thomas's heart raced with a foreboding thought. What if this project didn't just challenge Malik's resilience, but threatened their friendship in ways they couldn't yet imagine? The city lights flickered as they walked, a dim reflection of their uncertain path ahead. Who knew what was waiting around the corner? Would they find strength together, or would their unity face the ultimate test? The warmth of the evening wrapped around Malik and Thomas as they made their way to a small diner just a few blocks away. The streets buzzed with life, laughter spilling from nearby cafes and the distinctive aroma of grilled burgers enticing them. Thomas's stomach rumbled in agreement, but the nervous knot in his gut twisted tighter. "What do you think we'll find in the project?" Thomas asked, glancing sideways at Malik. "I mean, if Alan really is trying to rig things in his favor, can we even trust the results?" Malik shot him a reassuring smile, the kind that could brighten even the cloudiest day. "Listen, I know it feels heavy right now. But that's just the fear trying to pull us down. We have something good here. I believe that." As they entered the diner, a small bell jingled, announcing their arrival. They settled into a booth, worn leather creaking beneath them, familiar and comforting. Thomas scanned the menu, but his mind was elsewhere, lost in the labyrinth of anxiety about Alan and the project. "Okay, what's really bothering you, Thomas?" Malik leaned in, his tone shifting to something deeper than usual. He crossed his arms, standing firm against the creeping doubt. "It's not just about the project, Malik. It's generally about everything. Life suddenly feels like it's based on a game with outcomes we can't control. And who says we can't change the game?" Malik countered, his voice steady and bright with conviction. "Sure, Alan might have his tricks. But we've got heart, we've got each other. That means something." Thomas could see the passion fire in Malik's eyes. It reminded him of those moments on the court, the pure exhilaration that came from pushing through limits. Still, could mere heart power them through the shadows left by someone like Alan? Their food arrived, a towering plate of fries and a double burger that looked impossibly delicious. Malik dug right in, oblivious to the tension in the air. You gotta eat, man. Nourish the brain for the battle ahead. He said, laughter bubbling in his voice. With a small chuckle, Thomas picked at his own meal, but the apprehension didn't fully fade. He wanted to believe, yet the specter of failure loomed large in his mind. Wouldn't it be easier to just walk away from the project? No stress, no conflict. Sometimes I think it might be simpler, he began, but Malik cut him off, his voice firm yet gentle. Simplicity isn't the same as strength. This is where we grow, buddy. Facing what scares us, that's what builds us up. Remember how today felt, running, laughing, pushing back doubts. Thomas took a deep breath, Malik's words sinking in. He looked out the window, catching a glimpse of the city in all its chaos and beauty. What were they truly afraid of? You really believe we can make a difference? Thomas asked, his voice quiet, masking the flicker of hope that dared to rise. Absolutely. Together. Malik's eyes danced with sincerity, the kind that melted the walls of doubt in Thomas's heart just a little. Just promise me one thing, whenever Alan tries to pull you down, you'll remember we're a team. We rise or fall together. Thomas nodded, feeling the weight lifting slightly. It wasn't an answer to all his questions, but it was something tangible, a thread of trust connecting them. As they finished their meal, the sparkle in Malik's laughter filled the booth, anchoring Thomas to the present. They enjoyed each bite, but even then, Thomas couldn't shake off the feeling that something was coming, something big that might test the very foundations of their newfound resolve. When they finally left the diner, the cool night air rushed at them, refreshing and full of promise. Just then, a notification chimed on Malik's phone. He checked it, his eyebrows raising in surprise. Looks like Alan's called a meeting tomorrow morning, Malik said, his expression shifting from relaxed to steely. Thomas felt a rush of adrenaline. The real test was just beginning. Would they be ready to face it head-on and show Alan their strength? But deep down, a new fear settled in what would happen when they had to confront him again. How would they withstand the storm that brewed? Malik and Thomas walked side by side, the night air sharp with anticipation and unease. The vibrant city stretched around them, lit like 1,000 stars, yet their minds were clouded. Thomas could feel the echo of Malik's last words, "We rise or fall together," resounding in his heart, but doubt still danced on the edges of his thoughts. Do you think he knows we're onto him? Thomas asked, breaking the silence. His breath escaped in a rush against the evening chill. Malik shrugged, his pace steady and resolute. Alan's smart, he's always got an edge. He kicked a loose pebble on the sidewalk, sending it skittering. But that just means we have to be smarter. We can't show him our fear. Right, Thomas murmured, trying to steady himself. The idea of facing Alan felt as daunting as staring down a giant. He imagined Alan, cool and calculated, with that condescending smile on his face. The thought made Thomas clench his fists. As they neared Thomas's apartment, he noticed a flicker of movement down a darkened alley. A figure emerged, carrying something long and thin. Thomas instinctively stepped closer to Malik, heart racing. Did you see that? Yeah, I did. Malik's eyes narrowed, focusing on the shadow across the street. Let's check it out. Are you crazy? What if it's south? Just stay close. I'll protect you, Malik teased, though the seriousness in his tone made Thomas hesitate. They approached cautiously, inching down the alley bathed in faint moonlight. The figure became clearer. It looked like a woman, hunched over with a backpack slung across her shoulder. As they got closer, she straightened, a startled look crossing her face when she spotted them. It's okay. Malik lifted his hands. We're not here to hurt you. She remained wary, eyes darting back to her backpack before relaxing slightly. I'm just trying to get home, she said, her voice trembling. Thomas caught sight of her hands and noticed the substances sparkling under the dim light, what looked like cleaning supplies. You're not in trouble, are you? No, she said defensively, shifting her pack slightly. I'm just delivering. Please don't call anyone. Delivering what? Malik asked, curiosity sparking in his eyes. Never mind that. The woman glanced over her shoulder. What are you two doing down here? We were just coming back from dinner and saw you, Thomas explained. Do you need help? No help needed, she replied brusquely, but her voice cracked. Thomas sensed vulnerability buried beneath her tough exterior. What's in the bag? Malik pressed gently. You seem nervous. She hesitated, looking at them both. It's supplies for the homeless, she finally admitted, lowering her voice as if the shadows themselves might betray her. Really? Thomas felt warmth spread through him. That's amazing. But why out here at night? Because during the day, it's chaotic. People don't think twice about what they throw away. I'm just trying to help where I can. She glanced at Malik, a spark of defiance in her eyes. Malik nodded thoughtfully. That's brave of you. We could help, even with just a few supplies. No one cares about them. She spat suddenly. Especially not rich people like Alan. The bitterness rang in her words, a shared wound that echoed what Thomas had been feeling. Malik exchanged a glance with Thomas, recognizing the fork in the road. So what if we could change that? He said, voice steady. What if more people helped? What if we made it a project? The woman stared at them, uncertainty clouding her features. You think it'd work? She asked, her resolve wavering. An idea began to take root in Thomas's mind. Yes. With our project, maybe we can not only expose Alan, but also give back. Are you in? Malik urged her. Can I trust you? She whispered, hesitating. We're here for each other, Malik stated simply. There was a moment of silence, one that stretched like a tightrope. Then, slowly, she nodded. The sparks of possibility dancing in her eyes ignited something deep within Thomas. As they talked further, hope intertwined with the urgency of their upcoming meeting. If they could unite to make a change, they had a real chance at taking Alan down. When it was time to part ways, they exchanged numbers. The city around them buzzed with life again, but this time the isolation began to fade. It was transformed into something like unity, something Thomas needed more than ever. As they walked back towards Thomas's apartment, the air felt lighter, electrified with potential. Would they soon find themselves facing Alan, or had they just stumbled upon an ally who could change everything? A call from Malik pulled Thomas from his thoughts. You ready for tomorrow? Yeah, he replied, determination settling in his chest. Let us show Alan what we can really do. But in the pit of his stomach, a gnawing question rested: what new challenges awaited them in the morning? Thomas awoke the next morning with a jolt. Sunlight streamed into his room, sneaking between the curtains like an uninvited guest. The warmth brought him back to yesterday's excitement, but soon the weight of what lay ahead settled on his shoulders. Today was the day they'd confront Alan, and uncertainty tightened around him like a heavy blanket that he hurriedly dressed, images of the woman from the alley swirling in his mind. What was her name? And would she meet them as planned? He couldn't shake the feeling that bringing her into the fold could change everything. Rushing through breakfast, Thomas barely tasted the coffee. His thoughts were consumed with strategy, rehearsing the plan Malik had sketched out late last night. They had to expose Alan's unethical practices, but at the same time, they wanted to turn it into a cause that would truly make a difference. It wouldn't be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever was. Malik texted, "Meet you at our spot." Thomas replied with a quick "on my way." He grabbed his jacket and dashed out, heart pounding. The park was bustling when Thomas arrived. The morning crowd filled the green space with energy, children laughing and dogs barking as the world continued unbothered. Malik was waiting at their usual bench, looking thoughtful. The moment he spotted Thomas, a wide grin broke across his face, but it quickly faded. "Did she text you?" Malik asked with barely contained hope. "Not yet," Thomas replied, scanning the faces around them. What if she had changed her mind? What if the risk felt too great? Just then, a familiar figure stepped into view. The woman from the alley, her backpack slung over one shoulder, approached with a determined stride. Relief washed over Thomas. "You came!" he exclaimed, rising to meet her, while Malik stood, jaw slightly dropped in surprise. "I nearly didn't," she confessed, almost breathless. "But I thought about what you said. If we could actually make a difference." Her voice trailed off, echoing the flicker of hope mirrored in Thomas's heart. Malik extended a hand. "I'm Malik. We're glad you're here." After a moment of hesitation, she shook it, and Thomas felt a surge of excitement. "Okay, let us brainstorm what we're looking at," Thomas said, trying to keep the energy up. They spent the next hour bouncing ideas back and forth, ways to gather support, reach out to the community, and rally people around their cause. Then Malik suggested, "Let us start with a social media campaign. Something simple that can go viral. We can use your idea about collecting supplies." Her eyes lit up, a smile creeping into her expression. "I could share my story. Show people the reality of living on the streets." As they fleshed out the details, Thomas felt a rush of inspiration. This was not just about taking down Alan, it was about creating a movement. Each word spoke louder than the last, building momentum until they were practically electrified by their own energy. Suddenly her phone buzzed. She looked down, brows furrowing. "Oh no, I have to go. I have a delivery." "What? Now?" Malik asked, concern etched on his face. "I promise to be back. Just 15 minutes. She began to walk away, but then turned, an urgent spark in her eyes. "Stay here." Watching her go, anxiety bubbled beneath the surface. "What if she doesn't come back?" Thomas asked, biting his lip. "Then we keep pressing on," Malik replied, determination etched in his features. "We can't change the world alone." They sat in silence for a moment, absorbing the fleeting energy. Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was on the verge of breaking, and it wasn't just their project. The air felt charged, and every second ticked away with a strange urgency. "How long do you think we should wait?" Malik finally broke the silence, glancing at his watch. "I don't know, but we can't just sit here." Just then, their phones pinged in unison. Thomas pulled his out, and the message made his heart race. It was from the woman, "I need help. They found out what I'm doing." Fear gripped him as he met Malik's gaze. "What do we do?" He knew they had little time to plan, but they had to act quickly. They were already in this mess together, and now it felt like everything was about to change irreversibly. What awaited them on the other side of this sudden twist? Thomas's pulse quickened as the message lingered in the air like a storm cloud. They had barely begun their mission, and already, they were on the brink of something far beyond mere protest. He exchanged a glance with Malik, the unspoken question hanging between them, what did they mean? Who had found her? "Let us go." Malik's voice broke through the fog of uncertainty. "We can't just sit here waiting." "Right." Thomas replied, adrenaline coursing through him. "The cafe where she does deliveries is close by. If we hurry, we might find her." They jogged across the park, weaving through clusters of joggers and families enjoying the day. As they ran, every footfall echoed the racing thoughts in Thomas's mind. What if she was in trouble? What if people from Alan's camp were already closing in on her? When they reached the cafe, the atmosphere was still buzzing with the midday rush. The scent of brewing coffee hung thick in the air, mingling with pastries as patrons chatted animatedly. Thomas's eyes darted around the room until they landed on a familiar figure standing at the counter, her back to them. "There she is!" he shouted, pointing, but as they approached, his heart sank. The woman was talking to two men in dark suits, their postures tense and sharp. He could just make out snippets of their conversation: searches, information, and disruption. "Stay close," Malik murmured, grabbing Thomas's arm. They sidled up to the nearest table, pretending to gawk at their phones while straining to hear what was said. "What do you mean you found out? I told you to lay low," one of the men hissed, pushing his glasses up his nose. "I didn't do anything wrong," she insisted, her voice steady but laced with fear. "I'm only trying to help people, to show them the truth about what Alan is doing." "Truth?" The other man laughed, a cold and humorless sound. "This isn't about truth. It's about control. You need to stop this before it spirals out of control, or else there'll be consequences." Thomas's heart raced at the threat implied in the last words. He exchanged a look with Malik, their eyes wide with realization they had to intervene, and quickly. Without thinking, Thomas stood and approached them. A mix of anger and courage washed over him. "Leave her alone," he shouted, surprising himself as he felt the electricity of bravery surge through him. The men turned, surprise and annoyance flashing across their faces. The woman's gaze shifted from them to Thomas, her confusion instantly morphing into hope. "Thomas?" she asked, her voice softening. "What are you doing here?" Before he could answer, Malik jumped in. "We're not going to let you intimidate her. We have a plan, and it's going to work." The two men shared a look, their smirks evaporating, as they assessed the situation. "You've made a mistake, kid," one of them warned, stepping closer. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "I'm dealing with someone who is trying to make a change," Thomas countered, meeting the man's gaze with steady defiance. The cafe fell quiet, an electric stillness filling the room as everyone turned to witness the confrontation. The tension felt palpable, thick and heavy, and Thomas's heart pounded even louder in that sudden silence. Would they back down? Or was this only the beginning of the fight they had ignited? And just like that, the door of the cafe swung open, sending a rush of cold air in, accompanied by an old friend and newspaper with a headline that screamed, "Corporate Goliath exposed, the fight against corruption begins." Thomas gaped at the headline, a fraction of hope igniting within him. But the moment was fleeting as he recalled the danger they faced. How would they fight against the impending threats closing in around them? The moment was fragile, and time pressed on. They needed a way to protect her, and quickly. "Let us get out of here," he whispered urgently, moving to lead her away. But as they stepped back, the two men blocked their exit, the menace in their faces unmistakable. The stakes were higher than ever, and everything they had fought for hung in the balance. What would they do next? What's the price of defiance in the face of such overwhelming power? The air inside the cafe felt like it was charged with electricity, and uncomfortable tension lingering between the determined trio and the looming threat before them. The two men eyed Thomas and Malik, calculating their next move, while the woman shifted nervously between them. "Enough of this nonsense," one of the men sneered, though the quiver in his voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. "You think you can stand in our way?" The woman's spirit flickered, but Thomas felt an unyielding strength rise within him. "We can and we will," he declared, his heart pounding fiercely. He was tired of waiting, tired of feeling powerless. "We're not just standing for her," Malik added, stepping beside Thomas. "We're standing for everyone who has ever been silenced. And we'll keep shouting until we're heard." That declaration rang out loud in the hushed cafe, casting a long shadow over their challengers. A slight shift in demeanor from the men hinted that they had underestimated them. "Are you really willing to risk everything for this? For her?" One of the men spoke with feigned seriousness, but the flicker of doubt crossed his eyes. "Absolutely," Malik affirmed without hesitation. "Because some things are worth the fight." Thomas felt the knot in his stomach loosen slightly as he saw the fire reignite in the woman's eyes. She stood taller now, bolstered by the realization that support was behind her. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, the door creaked open, capturing everyone's attention. A group of young activists rushed in, brandishing placards emblazoned with the words, "Justice for all, corruption ends today." They were here not staged or planned, but a spontaneous uprising, spilling belief and urgency that pulsed through the air. As the commotion grew louder, the two men's bravado faded. They exchanged glances, watching their grip on power crumble in front of everyone, losing their narrative as the crowd rallied around the trio. "We don't have to deal with this," one of the men muttered, taking a step back, signaling retreat. "This isn't over." With that, they turned and rushed out, losing themselves into the chaos of the streets, where their hidden machinations could remain concealed at least for now. Thomas breathed deeply, relief washing over him like a tide. The young activists flooded the cafe, the energy amplifying with each passing second. They had made an unplanned ripple in the fabric of the corporate world, and it felt like the first real sign of hope. "You were incredible," the woman exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. "I didn't think anyone would stand up for me." "Please, this is just the beginning," Malik replied, his smile bright and radiant. "With all of us in it together, we can do this." They spent the next hour strategizing with the newcomers, sharing ideas about how to build upon this surge in momentum. Each word felt like an incantation, breathing life into a blossoming movement rooted in hope. Their mission etched vividly into their minds and hearts. By the time Thomas left the cafe, he felt reborn, a lightness in his step that he hadn't felt in years. As they walked together, the sun dipped low in the sky, painting everything in warm golden hues, a striking contrast to the shadow they had faced just moments before. "Together, we can change everything," Thomas said, a visible spark of determination shining in his eyes. "Yes," Malik said, his voice equal parts fiery and hopeful. "It's not just a project anymore. It's a lifeline." But the journey would be long and there would be challenges ahead. Yet Thomas felt something in him shift, a quiet assurance that they had each other's backs. They were together in this fight, standing shoulder to shoulder against whatever came next. As they strolled away from the cafe, determination hardened their resolve. They could feel the winds of change swirling around them, steady, relentless, and whispering promises of something greater, and in that moment, they knew, no matter how rocky the path, they would face it together. Now, my friends, this is the moment for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to this channel because you don't want to miss the next inspiring story. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. It fuels our community. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us spread the light and empowerment.